Hello and welcome back to the Midlife Butterfly podcast. In this episode, I am sharing an interview with a beautiful soul, Andrea Karlovich, who will guide us on how we can stop hiding and embrace our authentic selves. I know many of us, women especially, tend to hide, not allowing ourselves to shine and be authentic. We will unwrap some of the causes and show how we can shift this around so we can embrace our light and let ourselves shine. So, welcome, Andrea.
Thank you. Oh, that was beautiful. I'm so happy
Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about you.
here. Okay.
Andrea, Andrea is a somatic spiritual counselor, and her deepest passion is guiding people to reconnect with the parts of themselves that may feel lost, hidden, or buried. She has spent years walking this path, helping others peel away the layers of fear, shame, and doubt that have kept them from living as their true selves. Her journey of self discovery has taught her that hiding isn't the answer. Stepping into your light is. Her credentials and trainings include Master Life Coaching, Master in Spiritual Psychology, train in Somatic Counseling, Embodiment Work, Trauma Resolution, and she's also studied Heart Intelligence, Group Dynamics, Conscious Communications, Couple Works, and Child Development, and a variety of energy healing modalities. And she is currently a PhD candidate in metaphysics, holistic life counseling. And with all the wisdom that she has acquired over 14 years, she offers a safe space to uncover the truth of who you are. She believes we all deserve to be fully seen, heard, and cherished. And she knows that true transformation begins when we stop hiding and allow ourselves to be fully seen. Mm, thank you, Andrea.
Uh,
Wow. You're a
so
box of wisdom in here.
it's a different experience hearing it reflected back to me and read. So it was like,
Yeah.
wow, that's really fascinating. Oh.
Oh, wow. So, how has been your path out of the hiding part, which was where some of the blocks that were there for you and that you actually see in women and in people around that we tend to hide?
Yeah. So hiding has evolved into a focus for me. And I just want to start by saying, just as I reflect and hear that reflection of all of the titles and accomplishments, I'm still just a spiritual being having a human experience. And I kind of want to set those titles aside because that is one way that we can hide. We can also hide who we really are by using our titles and accomplishments in order to feel worthy or enough. And so I just want to acknowledge that first, that, I believe that we are all eternal souls having a human experience, and that each of us has a spiritual curriculum. So,
Mm.
kind of like, we sign up for classes. We're here and we come, we incarnate into, this world and life. And we have certain things that we want to acquire and learn and grow from. And often it comes in ways that are challenging. So we may choose to incarnate into childhoods and families that are dysfunctional and cause wounds. And that experience ends up being our curriculum in life to evolve and heal from. And my curriculum has been a huge journey of like true self discovery. So, um, hiding has been a huge part of my journey, hiding who I really am. And it started in childhood. So, I grew up in a family that was quite dysfunctional and had multi generational wounding that got passed down. And the core wound was, or the way that it was passed down was through shaming. So I had parents, in particular my mom, who had a turbulent childhood. That shame was passed down, and then she also shamed me, and the core wound was worthiness, was really being worthy of who I really am. In order to survive my childhood, I had to abandon my authenticity. I had to let go of my true self in order to earn love from my mom. So I guess we're just going to dive right in.
Go on. I can relate to so many things.
Yeah. So I'll just keep going. But the one of the core things the core messages that I not only experienced in my childhood, but it was also a verbal message that was told to me was this, and it's a little harsh. And I say this just to be authentic and transparent with my story and to relate with others, but not to think poorly of my mom. My mom had wounds, and they came from her childhood, and they were unhealed.
Yeah.
So the thing that I heard really young, 7, 8, was I was told verbatim, who I was nothing. Who you are is nothing. And if you want to be anybody in the world, you need to do everything that I tell you to, because only I, this is my mom speaking, only I can make you into something special, something worthy.
Oh my God. Give me
Yeah.
chills.
Yes. So there was big, huge wounds from my mom around being enough, being adequate, being extraordinary, being worthy. And instead of resolving them inside of herself, she projected them and put them onto me. And so to survive, I'm seeing your emotion, and I'm just like,
yeah, this is wow. Oh my God. Yeah, keep going.
So let me just insert this. Children survive by feeling loved, by feeling worthy, and feeling safe. Those end up being the core wounds of humanity, as we have wounds around safety, worthiness, and lovability. They can expand from there, into connection and belonging and things like that. But it really narrows down to that. So if worth and value and lovability are in question, then a child will trade love and connection. They'll trade their authenticity for it. So authenticity is a basic human need too. Like we need to be connected to ourselves in a true way. However, in childhood, connection to a parent, a caregiver, or love trumps authenticity. And so for me, I traded my authentic self in order to earn my mom's love, in order to be who she wanted me to be. Yeah. And for me, that's where my true self started going into hiding. And I had to, not only hide, but unfortunately, as a child, I believed her. I believed that who my true self was, who I was at my core, was nothing, was worthless. And that only she could make me into something more. And in childhood, so she used shame and fear, to control my behavior, and it worked. I was a really good girl, and I worked to be perfect and please and do all there was a threat of losing her love and a threat of abandonment. So anytime I stepped out of line or wasn't doing what she wanted, she would tell me, literally, it wasn't just actions, it was words, she would literally tell me, I'm done being your mother. And as a child, she would elaborate on that and say, I'll still take you to school, I'll still clothe you, I'll still do all the things, but I'm done making you into something more, something special. And for me, that meant I was worthless. I was left to just be the nothingness that I was programmed to believe that I was. And that felt like death. And that's normal, for a child. If they like their worth or value, therefore their worthiness of love is in question, it feels like they'll die. Like it feels like death. So that's where the patterns of hiding, of trading my authentic self started. And
Mhm.
to feel loved and accepted. I almost want to pause there and just check in and see how you're doing.
Yeah, no, I'm okay. But wow, what a journey as a child, and having it like that clear, because I can relate also to that feeling of unworthiness. But for my side was more like subtle, not with words, but with you was there on point. And if you will not follow, then you are not worthy. You are, as you said, you are nobody. And those are very like heavy words for even for us as adults now. So I can imagine you going through that as a child.
Yeah, yeah. I signed up for it, and that was the curriculum I signed up for.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you know what? Thank you for, I really love how you use this word curriculum, because well, probably at one point you did come with this word, because I don't know if you also went to the victim side of your life until we start working in ourselves, and then we understand that life is happening for us and not to us, right? And just before then we're thinking, we're blaming everyone, and we're saying that we have a shitty life and all this. And the way that you use this word curriculum, and it's like, yeah, so this is our curriculum of this human experience in life at this moment. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it's
yeah,
empowering. It's a way to take
exactly.
responsibility, to take ownership, and to recognize that, yeah, like life is happening for us. And when really horrible, challenging things happen, it can be really hard to embrace that. However, if we remind ourselves, especially about our childhood, that on some level as a soul coming into having a human experience, I must have chosen this. I know
Yeah.
for me I did, I
Hmm.
chose into it, but I want to say it a little softer just in case others haven't gotten there yet.
Hmm.
But just to ponder, well, what if I did? What if I did choose this experience? Then what?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I kind of want to get a little bit back to present moment and just sharing about hiding. So for me, like that was the core of my programming and the experiences. However, the funny thing is, up until I had like a spiritual awakening or a realization moment, I thought I had a great childhood. I thought it was great, like because I really did. I chose to be the good girl. I chose to be what I was taught to be. And,
Hmm.
for example, like when I was 5, I got to see my brother be born at home. So I come from a chiropractic family, and we were born at home. And so my brother was born at home, and it was it was the summer before kindergarten started for me.
Hmm.
And my mom convinced me that I wanted to be an OBGYN. And I said, well, I I just saw, what about a midwife? I just saw a midwife deliver my
Hmm.
brother.
Yeah.
And a midwife wasn't good enough. It wasn't, there wasn't enough status or, whatever the belief about, again, good enough. And so she convinced me that I wanted to be an OBGYN and worked with me for days to memorize the letters OBGYN.
What
It,
does it mean though? Sorry, because
an
English is my second language, so that's why I'm like,
oh,
okay, I don't know this.
yeah, it's an obstetrician gynecologist. It's the doctor that delivers babies.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
then you're a doctor, so that's why the case probably the difference of level of recognition.
Yes.
Okay.
Of recognition, of significance, of status. And that's what was important to my mom, to my family, too. That was kind of the generational thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I started kindergarten, and that's really the first opportunity that children are asked the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? I
Yeah.
had a memorized answer that I never even got the chance to inquire, like ask that question myself. It was like it was a memorized answer.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just like that's five. I mean, it continues throughout my whole childhood into, teenage years. It was very programmed.
Mm-hmm.
And but I never got the chance to really inquire or discover who I was, what resonated for me, what was me, what was different. I always had to memorize and be what my mom said. And so it's got hiding written all over it. I mean, that's all I knew.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I was 21, my spiritual awakening was a brief marriage experience. So I got married at 21, and 2 weeks after the wedding, it quickly flipped where I felt like I didn't know the person that I married, and it was verbally and emotionally abusive, manipulative, and controlling, and shocking. And it was shocking fast enough, quick enough, because like my childhood was over time and slow. But this was fast enough, quick enough that I was like, oh man, what the heck? That it like woke me up.
Yeah.
And so within a matter of months, I was able to get out of it, and get an annulment. And I got home, and somebody had recommended reading a book on codependency. So I started reading Codependent No More. And by this time I was 22. And I was like upstairs back at my parents' house, in my room reading this book. And it was hard for me. Like it was hard to see myself in that way, because by the time I'd gotten into my early 20s, I had started to believe that I was the the lies or the identity that my mom had like
Mm.
conditioned me to believe.
Yeah.
And any deviation from that wasn't safe. It was like any deviation from that, then, that feeling of, oh my gosh, like unworthiness would come up. And so to read that book and be like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, like this is me. It was hard. And I remember reading it while like my parents were downstairs and I was hearing them, and they were like yelling or arguing about something or talking, and I had this realization like, oh my gosh, this is my parents. Like I married my parents. And that was the awakening that I realized that I didn't have the best childhood.
Mm-hmm.
That even though it looked good on the outside, and anybody stepping into connecting with my family or the events and parties, they loved my family. But the hidden emotional, psychological abuse and manipulation was rampant. And that was my that was really my awakening to it, is that experience.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And how was it for you really experiencing and seeing that that reality of you saying, oh, wow, like this has been my life and it has been all put out for you, when you realize then probably only a few pieces of it really came from you. How was that realization?
Um, that's a great question. And it's not a simple answer, like, because there were so many layers, and that was really the beginning. It was
Mm-hmm.
the beginning of realizing and awakening. And then while also going through the pain, like the physical pain of that it was like 5 or 6 month marriage, being married for about 5 months, but experience like cracked me open, and I was accessing pain and anger that I had never been able to access before, because in my childhood, anger was ugly. Anger wasn't allowed. And I understand now logically, because if anger also gives us connection to our power, and if we don't have connection to feeling anger, then it's really hard to own our power. So I gave, my power was completely given away to my mom.
Mm-hmm.
So that experience cracked me open, and I was feeling things that I hadn't allowed myself to feel for, I mean, my whole childhood practically. And so it was cracking me open. I was accessing it. I was having the realizations. I was seeing the truth, through what I experienced. And then I will also add that it was a few years later when I started to learn a core principle about life, which is, and this is, one of the core principles I teach and live by, which is life is a mirror. And it's a mirror of our inner relationship with ourselves. And when I realized that, and I looked back at marrying this person, I had gotten an annulment based on proving fraud. And it was very minor, but like the annulment was granted because he had lied to me about some things. And so it was fraud. But then I had to go back and look and be like, well, if life is a mirror and it's a mirror of my relationship with myself, I was the fraud. And he was just reflecting it back to me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. My whole childhood, I didn't know it at the time. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have the awareness that I was the one that was inauthentic, that I was the one that had memorized who my identity was. But it took, years of spiritual growth work and healing,
Yeah.
to look back and be like, if life is a mirror and that, what was reflected back to me was fraud, then I own that. That
Mm-hmm.
was how that was a reflection of my inner relationship with myself. So yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Ah, yeah, definitely. I do agree that life is a mirror, and I guess it's when we really understand that, and if we are willing and open to do the work, is when we can start really polishing that mirror to start seeing something different. And because at the end, that mirror, we can keep shifting it over and over as we evolve as human beings.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a great point of evolving it over and over, and that leads into um, I believe discovering who we are is something that we live into, and that we don't necessarily find the answer and like, this is who I am and it's that forever.
No, of course not. Yeah, because that's the thing. We're continuing becoming. We're becoming and becoming and becoming.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, and we're continuing remembering. We're
Mm-hmm.
connecting. We're continuing dropping back into what's already there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a metaphor that brings up for me, because I feel that as souls, as eternal beings having a human experience, that we already are like who we are. Like we are born with this beautiful soul, and we go through experiences that kind of cover it, and shape it. We get hurt, we get told we're not worthy, and we don't get met in a way where we get to metabolize those experiences and still stay connected to ourselves. And so I know for me, my journey has really been learning how to connect with what was already there.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to go through the layers of what I experienced. So I guess there's going to be two metaphors, or two things as I think of this. So for me, like, I often draw this out for my clients, but if you imagine a heart, like at the center, and then a circle or a layer around it, and then another circle, a layer around that. And the heart is representative of our soul essence, of our true self, of our light, our beauty, our wholeness, our worthiness, and who we really are. And we're born with it. It is it. It is us. And it's there. And I do believe that the core purpose of childhood is to have healthy mirrors, meaning parents who are like connected to their true self and can reflect that back to a child to stay connected. But this world isn't quite there yet. we're getting there.
Yes, we're work in progress, definitely.
Yeah, we're getting there. So so that's what the heart represents. The next layer around it, like a circle around it, gets filled, and it gets dense and thick. It gets filled with different parts and aspects of ourself that get stuck and frozen in time. And parts of ourself get stuck and frozen in time when we have an experience that doesn't come to completion, that doesn't find resolution. We fall, like, physically speaking, we fall down, we scrape our knee, we get out the hydrogen peroxide and clean it. It hurts more. We put some Neosporin on it or whatever we use and a Band-Aid, and it heals. Yes. It comes to completion. If we don't, like, it'll get infected. Emotional wounds, invisible and psychological wounds are invisible.
Yes.
If we didn't have parents or caregivers or people around us to meet us when we fell down or got hurt emotionally and it didn't come to completion, then it stays stuck. And I want you to imagine that it stays stuck in this layer around that heart, as we come back to that visual. And it gets filled, it gets dense, and there's different pieces and aspects that are unresolved, that were wounded and form these limiting beliefs and, have pain. And so to survive, we go to the next layer and we create a layer around that. And the outermost layer is what you could call the ideal self, or said another way, who we think we need to be in order to be safe, in order to feel okay, in order to feel loved and worthy and all the things. And so we often hide out in this ideal self.
Yeah.
And we hide out with who we think we have to be. And there's a few ways that hiding often shows up. And I call them the 4/sometimes 5 P's. We hide through perfection, trying to be perfect and be the perfect ideal self and have the perfect everything, say the right thing. We may even find ourselves where this shows up, where maybe we go on a date or we connect with somebody, and then after, in retrospect, we go in and analyze every single thing we said. And like, what did I, and it's like, it's that perfection thing. Performing is another P. We'll perform, we'll please, we'll put on a show, we'll be the funny one, or whatever we need to be to feel safe and secure with who we are in the moment. Perfection, performing, pleasing. So pleasing is another one where we're hyper aware of everyone around us. We're hyper aware of their emotions. They're like, some of us can even like tell what somebody's thinking and anticipate their needs and please and take care of everybody else, and we'll deny ourselves. And pretending, we'll pretend I'm fine, I'm good, when really, like, I'm experiencing deep sadness and loss because my dog just died or something like that. And then the last one that kind of goes in and out, the 5th P is proving. And it's kind of a way to hide, it just depends, but proving really comes from a wound of trying to go out in the world and earn our worth. Prove that, hey, see who I am, see how many achievements I've got. Like, doesn't that prove to you that I'm enough? And it just comes from trying to fill that wound of unworthiness. And we can hide slightly behind it. It can be true, like what we're trying to prove, but we have to see it ourselves. And so those are some of the common ways that hiding shows up, and hiding what's real for us, what our real thoughts, feelings are. And there's 3 areas that hiding show up. It's with ourselves, with others, and in the world. And with ourselves is, my story that I just shared is a great example of how I was hiding with myself. Is, from the conditioning and everything that I experienced, like I didn't even know like what was going on. And on my healing journey, when I started doing embodiment work and training in somatic healing, my facilitator and teacher, she was like, feel your feet. Can you feel your feet right now? This is very common in the somatic practice. Tune in and feel your feet drop in. And I would look with my eyeballs. I was looking and she would be like, no, don't look at your feet, feel them. And
Feel them.
it was the embodiment work was so hard for me at first, because I was so oriented to seeing myself through the eyes of my mother to feel safe, that I didn't know how to drop in and feel what I was feeling. And so when it came to like tuning inward and being like, how do I feel? I didn't know. I couldn't access almost any of my feelings. And what I had to do is I had to drop in and feel the nothingness, which presented kind of like ice, like you'd think like ice. It didn't feel cold or hot. It was like neutral ice.
Okay.
And I had to keep feeling my non-access to feeling. I had to keep feeling the nothingness. And over time, it would melt and metabolize, and then I could gain access to what I was feeling. So when we hide from ourselves, we may have lived life where we're very disconnected from ourselves, from what we feel, from what we think, from who we are. And other times we might be aware. We might be aware subtly of what's going on, and instead of facing and feeling it, we'll get busy. We'll run around and get busy and like do all the things and, go, go, go. And, no slowing down until it's time to fall asleep. And we'll get up, we'll do it again. And, we're good. We're taking care of everything. And, but if we slow down, and stop running away from our bodies and our feelings and our thoughts and what's true for us, one, it might feel counterintuitive, because if we are in the sympathetic nervous system and we're in fight, flight, or freeze, then the sympathetic nervous system tells us to go, run, do, in order to feel safe.
Yeah.
But the opposite ends up being true, is to slow down, drop in, get the parasympathetic nervous system online, and meet what's present, meet what's real. And that's when the healing and the metabolization start to happen. That's when we stop hiding from ourselves and we start connecting and getting real. And we have to be ready, because sometimes there's things that come up in our body that we haven't been ready to face. And yeah.
Wow. The thing is, oh wow, I'm just in awe. Thank you for all this share. I mean, wow. Because I've seen, like, for my personal experience, hiding for me has been really because of my wound of rejection. So it was really me choosing to hide to avoid that. But in your case, it's a completely different perception. Well, it's story that I've never perceived hiding from that side. And what you just said now of us being busy all the time, I never saw it either as a way of hiding. And I am a woman that have done that. And I'm sure that a lot of listeners, they can relate to that. And we think that we're good and we are doing everything, and but yeah, it's a way of hiding.
Yeah.
It is. And something, when you were talking about the 4 pieces of hiding, the one that I know resonates for most of us, or at least for the women that I have talked to, and for some, Facebook groups that I've been in, and that whole thing, and even clients that, yeah, we've been working with this, is the pleasing part.
Mm-hmm.
How we actually hide ourselves by pleasing others.
Yeah. Yeah. We deny and abandon our own needs, our own desires, our own dreams, our own wants in order to make sure everybody else is happy. We're so good at reading and knowing what people need and want and giving it to them. We, can be so generous and thoughtful, but we don't include ourselves.
But, and adding to that, once the first time I heard this, I was like, they say being a people pleaser, it's a way of manipulation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just to say, it gives me chills, because I was like, what? You know, at that time, like, now I'm like, hell yeah, that's so true. Because we are not allowing to be ourselves fully, because we want the other person to be okay. We want the other person to love us. We want the other person to whatever expectation we may have. But by us pleasing them, we are manipulating the situation.
Yeah. We're outsourcing and trying to get their approval, their validation, they're liking us, they're loving us, they're accepting us. And so we end up, pleasing, and pleasing can be super mild. It can be mild in terms of um, this kind of jumps into the self other world. It jumps into how we hide with others category. It's like,
Okay.
where do you want to go to dinner? Well, I don't know. Where do you want to go to dinner? Well, just wherever you want to go to dinner. It's like this pleasing thing. And we might tell ourselves, well, that's true. I'm being real. I'm being authentic because I just want to go where they want to go. But then we're not, it comes down to self, because then we're probably not connected to ourselves or giving ourselves permission to have a desire, to have a preference, to have, a want.
Yeah.
And so the surface is, no, I really just want what they want, and so we have to dare to be real. We have to dare to be ourselves. We have to dare to say and have the courage to be like, you know what, I'd really prefer Italian tonight. Like, what about you? Well, I didn't really want Italian. Oh, that's okay. We can go where you want to go. Right? Like, it happens.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it happens. And it's because we've had the wounds of rejection. The wounds of being ourselves or having our own needs and wants wasn't okay. It wasn't safe. It wasn't accepted. We didn't have somebody saying, you be you, I'm really proud of you, like that's awesome, like you want to go there and you spoke it, no matter if it happens or not, that's great. Instead it's like, what, you want that? There's subtle aspects of like, who do you think you are, which is shame. And so the core is really coming into the realization that our being, the worthiness of being, isn't on the line. Our lovability isn't on the line, no matter if we have a different preference. So pleasing is big, and it comes back to our relationship with ourselves and connecting with ourselves, with accepting what's true for us, what's real for us, accepting what we feel, seeing ourselves. And when we do, there's less pressure and need to get it from the outside, to get it from other. Back to the principle of life as a mirror, what I found is when you start seeing, when we all start really seeing and valuing ourselves, then we'll attract relationships and experiences of people who can see us and who can value us and reflect us back. But the little magical thing is we don't need them to anymore. It's a bonus because we've got us.
Yeah.
We see us. And I know I mentioned a second metaphor earlier. I described the heart one. I love this one. It almost makes me tear up every time I share it. And I've shared it hundreds of times. And it's a way of connecting back into the self. There's this metaphor, you may have heard it, but it's the angel in the marble. And it's about Michelangelo and the statue of the David. And he was asked, like, how did you carve the David? Like, how did you get that idea into your mind? And he said, I didn't. I just took the marble and I saw into it. And the David was already there.
Mm.
The angel was already within it. And so I feel like we work so hard going outside of ourselves, trying to find ourselves out there, trying to become something with others or in the world or out there. And we're missing it, that our human being, our human self is part of that marble. And inside that marble is the angel, is the soul, is the statue that was already there. And that our journey isn't to go out and find ourselves, it's to go in and see who's already there. The angel is already within you, it's already within me. Our true self is there. It's just there's excess marble, which is part of that middle layer I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And all we have to do is just release it. Acknowledge and release the excess marble. Acknowledge the experience that made us feel like we had to cover ourselves and hide ourselves and hold back. And the more that we do that, the light, the soul light, the angel, the being that's within, the true self will illuminate and shine forth. And that's when life gets really magical, because the more we connect inward to that and we follow what our soul essence is guiding us to do and to be, I mean, to be is just really to connect with that. Then we're in alignment with our soul, we're in alignment with our soul path. And we get to go out into the world and out into relationships from a place of deep connection with that, of having that wholeness, that worth, that value. And from there, we don't need anything from the world and we don't need anything from others because we have it. But what we do get to do is we get to share it. We get to share it without needing anything back. And so that metaphor is one of the most powerful metaphors, especially for me, because man, like, have I ever searched under every rock looking for myself and gone out there? Oh yeah. And then I'll hit a wall and be like, oh shoot, I need to come back to myself. Ow, I hit a wall, it hurt,
Yeah, exactly.
And it was my reminder to be like, oh yeah, like, let me come back within. And it's a journey. And so I just wanted to also cover, the other, how we hide with other. The more we're connected to ourselves and going within, then we can share what we have with others and they can see it. If we're disconnected, which we can be disconnected to some parts of ourselves, disconnected from others. And when we're disconnected, we'll please, we'll do all the things because we don't have what we're looking for, and we'll need to outsource it or need to try to please or perform in order for somebody to love us in that place. Mm-hmm. But once we do, we liberate it, and that pattern can resolve, especially in relationship. Excuse me. Now with the world is kind of more in alignment with our service, our calling, our purpose, how we show up in the world. And I know each of us, I believe everybody has gifts. They have soul gifts and they get illuminated and they come forward the more we go through that middle layer like the heart, then the next layer, that middle layer of
Yeah.
healing.
Yeah.
um, there's gifts that come from meeting those places that come out, and then there's gifts that come from the soul that are just natural that we have. And so the more we go inward, the more that comes out. And I feel like with showing up in the world, if we aren't connected, it's not all of us, it's parts, right? If we aren't
Yeah.
connected to a certain part that we're wanting to share, be seen, or we're wanting to earn our worth or value, we'll show up in the world and one will hide. Maybe we won't dare to do the thing that our soul is calling us to do. We'll be afraid of being rejected or judged or all the things. But again, the more we come back to connecting with self, the more we can feel safe, because
Yes.
we've resourced our own safety from within. And then we're free to, it still might require courage, but we're much freer to step out and do what our soul is guiding us to do in the world.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, I love that metaphor. I never hear it before.
The angel in the marble.
The yes, and it goes to coming back to that remembering of who we are, because yeah, like our soul is here. It's just all that conditioning, all that programming that we have received since we were born, that has built all those layers that doesn't allow us to really see that soul, and not see it but feel it, because once that we feel it, it's really being home.
Yeah. 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 Oh.
And one of the things that I learned through the journey is that, as you said, there are several different parts, right, that we hide. But one of the things that I realized, to really get to accept who I am and to love who I am, is that shadow part. And I think that's one of the more difficult things to actually face, because again, you are not allowed to be angry. You are not allowed to not obey, or you need to do what I'm telling you to do. And all those things that we don't supposed to do or not supposed to show or express out. And if we don't really put a light on them, we cannot really shine.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, the shadow, for me, I like to define the shadow not bad. It's just anything that we aren't willing to let be seen. And, you know, um, the shadow. So I like to say healing is welcoming back in those parts that are hiding in the shadow.
Yes.
When we welcome them back in, they reintegrate back into the wholeness. They kind of melt and metabolize. And I know for me, and working with clients, there's a fear that if we welcome that part in, that it means something about who we are. That it means that we're less than, or whatever the fear is.
Mm-hmm.
And that it also means that it will be that way always. So an example with that would be like rage, repressed anger. I can't let that anger in. It'll take over me. I don't want to be that way.
Yeah.
But what's been helpful is seeing those different parts as different aspects of us, because every age we've ever been is alive and present within us. And so if there's an angry little child that, got judged or shamed for feeling angry, and got lost and disconnected, it got locked up into the closet or into, the attic.
Yeah.
metaphorically speaking, then, that aspect of us has been abandoned and sitting in a dark room for so long and rejected, not anymore just by others, but now it's been rejected by us.
Yes.
And we've abandoned it. We've betrayed it. And so for doing the shadow work and reclaiming those parts, we have to be willing to, seeing in metaphors help me, and they've helped clients. I like to imagine a house like with an attic, and some of the parts that we've abandoned or hidden are like locked in a dark room, and we've hired an armed guard to stand at the door,
Yeah.
And so we have to be willing to release the armed guard and unlock the door and reclaim that part, and to see it as it is and let it be okay, and not have an agenda for it to be different. We can sit with it and let that little 5-year-old or 12-year-old or 17-year-old or 2-year-old be angry, have a voice. We can let that part be okay to be fully expressed without needing it to be different, without needing it to get it together or, be perfect or anything. And that is how we welcome those parts. That's what I've done, and the way that I've guided clients through is letting that part in and sitting there. Like, imagine yourself sitting there in that room that this part has been locked in, and just sitting next to them and holding space, telling them, like, if it's anger, as an example, like, it's okay to feel angry. Tell me more. I'm here with you. I'm strong enough now, because you're showing up with your adult self. I'm strong enough to feel this. Bring it. It's okay. It's okay. And the more we meet those parts just like that, the magic is they get the medicine, they get that unconditional acceptance, they get met in the way that they didn't at 5 years old or at the time, that heals it, that completes it. And then in that part transforms. It releases, it lets go, it evolves, it grows from 5 years old and starts to grow emotionally back into the age that you are. Sometimes it's piece by piece, and maybe they grow a few years, and it takes some time.
Yeah.
But you start to welcome it and let that part reintegrate back into who you are and where you are today. But the caveat is knowing that it transforms, knowing that those aspects and parts do transform and it metabolizes. We get stuck if we meet them that way. We can't have an agenda, or it's like, okay, I'm going to accept you because I know you're going to change, it's going to go away. Like, okay, was that enough?
Yeah.
Was that enough? Did you feel the anger enough? Is that good? Okay, you're happy now, right? No, it doesn't work that way. We have to just sit there and not have an agenda to be different at all. So when you think about it, if you've ever had an experience of somebody outside of you meeting you that way, it's magic. It's medicine. And if you share a part of yourself with somebody that can hold space and can love you and not want you to be any different, and even if it's a part where there's shame around and you shared it and somebody just saw you, was like, great. Wow, okay. Well, thank you for sharing. I love you just the same. And had no agenda for you to change the thing. That's the meeting. And that's the magic. And so when we work with the parts that we've hidden, the shadow parts, then when they get accepted like that, magic happens, things transform. And there not always parts that are angry or parts that seem dark, or negative, that are in the shadow. It's also parts that are light. We hide our light too, because our light may have been too much, and other people felt insecure and they felt threatened,
Yes.
and they didn't feel good about themselves when you were shining, when you had your light. And you as a sensitive soul, or all of us like sensitive empathic souls, we don't like that. We know what it feels like to feel that, and we don't like others to feel that way. We don't want them to feel less than. We know what it feels that way. So, oh my gosh, I'm going to lock that light up into the closet, into the attic, into the shadow. And I'm going to hide that part of me because I want others to feel good about who they are, so I can feel safe.
Yeah.
So I'm okay, and it's not safe to shine. So the light can be a part of the shadow just as much as the proverbial dark,
Yeah.
I mean, I try not to do good, bad, right, and wrong, those judgments. But yeah, the light, hiding our light, fear of being too much, fear of threatening others, and hiding the dark is, oh no, like they'll reject me if they know this part of me, if they know that I can get angry like this, like they'll abandon me. That's not acceptable. So we hide. Like, that's why I love exploring that word, hiding, because it really does show up in so many ways. And the journey home is coming back to ourselves and letting it be okay first with us, and then how we show up with others and how we show up in the world. And then when we show up in the world, we might get triggered and afraid, and we come back down to ourselves and meet ourselves and work on it, and then we can come back out. It's like the cocoon and a butterfly.
Yes, exactly. Wow, wow. Yeah, I can definitely, yeah, with this whole conversation, yeah, it's definitely the hide you have done at deep, like, you really went to the hole in there to really find what is hiding. I have never perceived it like this way, with such an amplitude of it. And yeah, there are too many pieces in there. There are too many pieces, and I'm sure that a lot of people are gonna relate. I could relate to many of the things that you just said. And like the simple example, like you said, no, you choose which restaurant we want to go. It's like, it's something so simple. Yeah, but you're not speaking your truth. Therefore, you're hiding.
Yeah, I love that you said that. Yeah, exactly. And it's the simple things.
Yes. Do
It's
you
that.
have any, sorry, do you have any others like simple examples like this that we might not realize it, but they are there?
Well, let me just go to what I was going to say first, and that is to simplify things.
Okay.
So we often go for the big things. We want to answer the big questions in life. We want to know who we are, why we're here, what our purpose is, like how do we serve and make a difference, and it comes back to, so those questions, I like to say, those are questions that we live into the answer. We live into them day by day, and we start living into things moment by moment, coming back to the present moment and getting simple with like, what's authentic for me right now? What's in alignment? Is that really true, or is there something underneath that? And so it's like, I feel like courage is such, hiding is really about safety and fear, fear and trying, we hide to find safety. And so that requires courage. It requires courage to go on a journey inward, to connect with ourselves, courage to cultivate that enough safety to dare to let ourselves be seen just a little more in our relationships, and just a little more in how we're showing up in the world. I feel like breaking it down to embracing courage in the simple moments of everyday life is really the way that we live into more of our true self. And I want to say that it's not a black and white, up and down switch that we flip. It's like, oh, I'm being authentic and now I'm authentic. Like,
It's
And
not
like,
like
oh my gosh. No. That would be nice. It might feel a little jarring,
yeah.
very jarring to our nervous system. Um, it's more
It's
about,
different shades, or I don't know. I just picture the color gray and how many shades you can have.
yeah, yeah. It's about so it's about the little shifts, the tiny, tiny little shifts.
Yes.
And I know for some of us, we like to go big. You know, if we're going to transform, we like to go all out. We like to do
Mhm.
it. We want those big results. But the the big results come from connecting to the core, connecting to the center, and making a tiny shift
Mhm.
inside, making a tiny shift in your relationship with yourself, and a tiny shift in how you show up in relationship with others, and a tiny shift in, you know, how you're serving and showing up in the world. And another, if you can't tell, I like metaphors. So,
I love. Oh, go for it. I love them.
so an earthquake, for example,
Yeah.
earthquake happens. We see, I mean, we see the result. Like it destroys a lot of things. It tears a lot of things down. And an earthquake, think of it, pretend like maybe it's a good thing, but it's a transformation. It just transforms. It can be messy. So an earthquake, we usually like to go for the end result of what an earthquake produces. But what causes an earthquake? If you go to the center at the core, there's two little plates and they make a tiny shift, tiny. And
Yeah.
that tiny shift at the core ripples out and creates transformation.
Mm.
Okay. So same with like the trajectory of a ship, a huge vessel or cruise liner. Like if they set a course, and if they change that course 1 degree or 2 degrees, they end up in a completely different destination.
Yes.
So to attempt this journey of being, or to live into being more of who we truly are, to be true to ourselves and be on our path, it's about self-awareness and coming back to ourselves, being willing to slow down, get present, connect, find safety in the present moment, and ask ourselves questions and be willing to let the answers come from within. That may be hard. It was so hard for me to start doing that, because it was scary. It was safer for somebody to tell me what to do because that's how I was raised.
Yeah.
But I had to start daring and being willing to find my own answer and dare to answer my question, even if it was wrong, even if it was a mistake. And that scared me the most. And so the little things, like the little moments, like, of, what feels good to me in this moment, what do I really want? And what's the most authentic thing for me to do? And connecting with the body and moving the body and expressing often feels good. Another thing that's also really helpful is the sound of your own voice. Talking to ourselves is very regulating for the nervous system. Inwardly is great. And when you also talk outwardly, there's something magical for the nervous system. There's something settling in it when we can hear the energy and the vibration of our own voice. What I found is like it's a way that it empowers us. We access more of that power by speaking. Yeah. So I know I kind of went off on a tangent, and
No, it's perfect because actually I was going to ask you some of the exercises or practices that we can do to then stop hiding and allowing that revealing of our authentic self. And what you just said is it just went on point, all these different things. Yeah.
yeah.
And I I do remember, as you're saying, I think the key of this is really awareness because if we are doing the things in autopilot, then we are not really present. Excuse me, we are not really aware or conscious. And the only way we can actually shift and change and create a different results in our lives is really by having that awareness of choosing something different. Because we are either, if you're in autopilot, we're still choosing something unconsciously, most likely, but we're choosing something. So it's about that awareness of saying, okay, I'm choosing something different. And even though it's gonna feel uncomfortable, because I am used to feel safe, and my nervous system, that's how it wants to keep, right? Not getting this anxiety of it. But if we're still within our safety nets, I think within our in our nervous system, if we just tweak it a bit, but we still feel safe, I believe that's the way to go to start then showing ourselves more and more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The key is learning how to give ourselves what we never received, especially in childhood.
Mm.
And one of those core things is
Yes.
feeling safe. If we didn't have a safe environment, or if it wasn't safe to share our truth or be ourselves, then we have to learn how to give that to ourselves.
Yeah.
We have to learn how to create and find safety within and find that acceptance within. We have to learn how to see our value and worth, how to feel lovable with ourselves, for ourselves. And that is really the healing journey.
Yeah, definitely. It's, as you said, it's how we start like peeling all those layers here and there. Because for me, I think in the last year is when I really sink in and feel safe within.
Awesome.
You know, just the last year, I'm 46, almost 47. It's, you know, I made it. And still work in progress, because
Yes.
again, it's layers. I may feel safe with some things or with some people, but not in other situations and not with other people. So it's coming back to home, and then connecting back and saying, okay, like again, bringing that awareness of saying, I'm not feeling safe. What do I need to choose now? Or what do I need to practice, even if it's a deep breathing or go into nature or do something that is going to bring us back to ourselves so we can feel safe again. And by doing so, again, being authentic, being true.
Yeah. Beautiful. Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations for finding that inner safety and touching in on it. Like, yes.
Yay!
Yes. And way to go for acknowledging the progress, because me too. Me too. Like, I find that safety. And then when I stretch beyond my comfort zone, got to do the work.
Yes,
I gotta
exactly.
Yeah. And I wanted to talk about midlife,
Yes.
midlife, like 40s. So with working with a lot of clients, like I've seen themes, especially with decades. And so what I've witnessed is like stepping into the 40s, it's all about next level. The
Yes.
40s is like an invitation for your next level. And what I see that mean is it's the next level of getting more aligned with your soul, with who you really are. And there's like an energetic shift in the 40s that calls us forward. And so there can be so much transition in the 40s, whereas if things are out of alignment with your soul and what's meant for you, they'll fall away. They'll shift, the relationships, things change, careers. And if they are in alignment, like if you have been following that, then it's still the next level. It's like being called into more. How can you express yourself more? How can you deepen in your relationship more? How can you deepen in your connection and your practice with yourself? And like the 50s of what I've witnessed is 50s are like new beginning. So when
Mm.
people step into their 50s, it's kind of a graduation of like what they've learned and, up until then. And it's like
Yeah.
something new, like a new project, new beginning, something they've never tried before. Like they're, something new. 30s, like I'm at the tail end here. And 30s is like kind of, for me, it's been like self-discovery, like really doing the work and showing up and connecting and working with the layers. And as I'm almost at 40, so in a
Yeah.
few, and so it's that I'm feeling that call for the next level, which is
Yeah.
why work is going to be expanding and stuff like that. And then just for anyone else, like 20s, like you hit the quarter life crisis. A lot of people hit that identity crisis at 25, where they like kind of have an awakening that was, 22 is kind of mine, where it's like, oh my gosh, like I was raised to be this way, or I was raised to go into this career, do this, and this isn't me. I don't know who I am, but this is
Mm.
me. And like that can be the awakening in the 20s leading up to the Saturn returns. So I just kind of wanted to acknowledge that for any listeners. But yeah, the 40s, like next level soul
Yes.
alignment.
I love what you said. I mean, all this, well, it's great. And yeah, that's really what the 40s is. And this midlife. And that's what I call this show actually the midlife butterfly, because we, as you said, is when we are really like doing that healing process and that transformation, and it's over and over, because it seems like life is happening faster between quotes, but it's just so many things at the same time, and it's so many cuckooing at the same time. And as you said, sometimes, yeah, it's the death and the rebirth, but it's sometimes just a transformation, that expansion of the soul.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I just love my bodies. It's been, oh, I just love them.
Yay! Love, love, love.
Yes, yes, yes. So you're close to turning 40, you said.
Yes, in February.
Oh wow. I'm from February too.
Really?
Yes. From which day are you?
The ninth.
Oh, 19th. I'm not that.
Ah, that's so cute.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I'm
Mm.
right there, feeling the energies, listening, honoring it, listening to the call, and stepping in. And but then there's with expansion and next level, it's that new level, new levels, and the nervous system and is the safety thing comes up, and I'm noticing when it comes up, and it's like my inner child wants to hide a little bit, and it's like, okay, like we're gonna do the work, I'm gonna meet you, like I'm strong, I can hold space for you, I can create safety, it's okay. And so it's the journey.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? I really want to mention the importance of having support for
Mm,
this,
yeah.
because I, well, I guess that you have became the person that you are now because of all the studies and all the support that you have probably get from either therapy or coaching or mentorship. And because I think that's the way that we can actually evolve and grow, between quotes, in a faster way. Um, Otherwise, I mean, life is beautiful, but at the same time, it goes really fast. So
Mhm.
I really think that by having that support of someone, so we can get to heal these parts of us and be able then to be there, not only for ourselves, but from others and the world, as you were mentioning. It is this composition of having then feeling that purpose for our lives and feeling fulfilled by having the support of someone to help us really heal this part of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a mix, and there's there's beauty in all of it, and there's also some slippery slopes in all of it that I've also experienced with myself. So there can be layers and stages of healing, and sometimes in the beginning, when we're awakening and we're learning to see ourselves, we get around people who can see us and who have done the work and can be a clean, healthy mirror. That's a therapist, a coach, a counselor, or a community of people who are doing work, and they can see into the angel within us, and they can reflect that back to us, and it helps. It's a healing experience to receive that and get to witness that. That's the beauty. The slippery slope of it is we can get really attached to people who can see us when we can't see ourselves. Oof. We can get dependent and codependent on needing them. And we can fall into patterns of all the things, the pleasing and get needy. Like we need to be seen, and that person can see us, and so we'll bend over backwards and do whatever we can. So that's the slippery slope we have to be careful with. That it's healing to be in community and to be with somebody who can see us and receive that medicine. But the key is to not project ourselves back onto them, but to just say thank you and to work on going inward and see ourselves. So there's beauty and magic in both, and the balance is being able to have it and receive it. But the goal is to be able to give it to ourselves, be able to see ourselves. And the more that we do that for ourselves, the more we can be a clean, pure mirror and reflect others back to themselves. And then we also know that if somebody's projecting back onto us, and becoming needy, we can give them their power back and say, nope, it's not me. I was just seeing you. Go back to, come center back into yourself. You got this. And so that's a huge part of my work, is I believe in empowerment and being in this position.
That was exactly what I was going to say. It's the thing, it's giving to people the empowerment, them taking that responsibility for it, but at the same time, they take back their own power and stop giving it away. That's the only way we can actually be free, because freedom comes from within, as safety comes from within, as love comes from within.
Yeah, exactly. And community can help us access it sometimes, especially in the beginning when it's really hard to access it for ourselves. But the key is to be with mentors, to be with people who are healed enough within themselves that they don't need you to give your power away to them.
Exactly.
They don't need you to be their guru or their hero or or anything like that, because they know who they are, and they can give your power back to you when you fall into the pattern of giving it away. And I had both. Like because that was my pattern, or what I was raised, is to give my power to my mom, that she knew better than I did. And so on the healing journey, like I came across, healers and therapists and, coaches. Some were able to do that for me, and others weren't. And they would kind of eat it up and, like kind of take the power. But I got to a point where I then advocated for it for myself. And so as far as being having the honor and privilege of guiding others through their healing journey, that's a huge core pillar of where I come from, is making sure that I give my power back to my clients. And I say, like, I want you to graduate. I want you to learn the tools. I want you to become your own coach and facilitator and healer and guide, and to recognize that your answers come from within. I can shine a light and guide you. And yes, I'm also very intuitive and can have downloads as well. But the key is for you to come to it yourself. And so I feel like that's huge. And I love that that's where you come from too.
Thank you for sharing that, because Yeah, we want them to graduate. We don't want them here all our lives. It's cool to have clients, yeah, but no, I want you to be independent. I want you to take control of your life. And as you said, I think that the more, for what I have experienced, the more then we know how to heal ourselves, and then learning different methodology from different people, then we take whatever works best for us, and then we can become our own coaches.
Yes.
Yes. Of course, we still have some support, because we always need to keep, okay, we keep growing and evolving, but it's just at least not having that dependency of someone, like saying, okay, there's an earthquake now. Okay, what practice can I take so then I can come back home, come back to feel safe?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And everybody's unique, and certain things will work for certain people, but I always like to say, make it your own.
Yes.
Filter it through you, through your nervous system, through your body, through your story, and make it yours. Make what healing tools work for you, and yeah, I feel like that's important. And I think with the support, like, the support is amazing, and the self-support is also amazing, and learning how to navigate what is needed in the season is important, to
Yes.
honor, to recognize where you're coming from. Is it coming from that place of giving power away? Is it coming from a place of, do you need to come home to yourself and sit with yourself? Are you afraid of sitting with yourself and finding your own answers right now? And to recognize that. So it's a dance. I feel like it's a dance in the journey of navigating, especially through different seasons of growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God. Woohoo.
I think we can talk all day.
Oh yeah, we can keep going. No worries. I'm sure you're gonna be back.
I'd love
I'm throwing away the ball of the next invitation. That's for sure.
well, thank you.
Oh wow. This has been wonderful. I have learned a lot. Again, I love your energy. Your wisdom is wow. And I'm really very, very grateful of having you here. And I'm sure that whoever is listening also is going to appreciate much all what you have shared. And I would like to know if you would like to share something before we close this session, this interview.
Yeah. There's one thing that keeps dropping in, and it's actually an exercise. And so I must be guided to share it. And so, especially piggybacking from the discussion about self versus working with others. So there's a powerful exercise that I do in groups with others, but it's also super powerful to do it with yourself. And it's an exercise and a practice of seeing yourself, truly seeing yourself. So the exercise is to go into the mirror and see the beautiful soul standing before you. See the woman, and if there's any men listening, or the man, in the mirror before you. And stand in front of that mirror and declare to that being in front of you, and say these exact words: I'm here to be seen. And you tell yourself, looking into the mirror, I am here to be seen. You say that out loud. Then get a little closer to the mirror and see yourself. Look into your eyes and look for that angel in the marble. Look for the loving essence, the soul essence, the eternal being that is who you really are. And take your time to see it and feel it. And when you feel connected to seeing her or him, then say out loud, and I see you. And receive that, receive the energy of declaring that, connecting to seeing yourself, and then say back to yourself, and I see you. Then receive it, feel it, and stay centered with your heart, stay centered with yourself. And from there, if it feels authentic, just close your eyes and drop in and stay connected with yourself. And keep seeing yourself inwardly. See your value, see your energy, your essence, your presence, and give that to yourself. And if you want to say anything out loud or inwardly and just tell yourself what you're seeing, do it. And then when it feels good, you can complete. And if you want to write anything down about what came forward or how you were seeing and valuing yourself, seeing your value, do it. And then use that as a practice. It can be a daily practice, or it can be, once a week. It can be whatever feels true and authentic for you. The more you practice giving yourself back to yourself and seeing yourself, magic happens. Magic happens. And so that exercise is super powerful. It's amazing to do in group with others, but it's very powerful to do with yourself.
Wow. Well, I was just imagining myself doing that at the mirror. And at one point, at the end, when you said you are being seen, like I see you, my throat I felt it that it closed. Yeah. So I definitely gonna do that practice.
Beautiful. And if that happens, if the throat closes or if anything comes up that doesn't feel good, just welcome it. Let it be okay. Let it be okay, and know that just showing up to the mirror and showing up to do that is enough. And whatever comes forward is just coming forward to be welcomed and loved as it is. And if there's no agenda, it just might metabolize.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. So I'm just that was what was present.
Oh yes. No, beautiful. It's a beautiful practice, and yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Would you like to share where can people find you?
Yes, definitely. You can go to my website, andreakarlovich.com. And my last name, Karlovich, is like 3 words in one. Kar with a K, K-A-R, love, and ich, I-C-H. So love at the middle, andreakarlovich.com. So my website is where you can find me, and also on Instagram, same thing, at Andrea Karlovich. So come reach out. We'd love to connect.
Thank you. Oh yes, we're gonna be sharing the links in the show notes as well. And just to close, what is a simple pleasure that you enjoy?
A simple pleasure. I mean, just the first thing that dropped in is an embodiment practice of moving the way that feels good. So I like to move my body and my energy in a way that feels good, that helps me get in touch with pleasure. Because if I'm go, if I'm not connected, like pleasure, like what? Yeah. So a practice for me to open to that energy is to move my body, and especially the spine. So the spine is really connected to the nervous system, and so I like to move it in a rhythm and a flow that kind of connects to all the chakras. And so it's just like it can be as short as like a little 2 to 5 minute practice to really drop in and get into my body, and it makes me more open and receptive, and I feel like that is allowing the energy of pleasure. So that's what's been present for me with that. At least for now.
I love it. Yes. Yeah. Bringing the energy of pleasure to the body. The best thing.
Yeah.
I can relate.
Yes. Yeah. The body has to be open and ready to move and explore. And, I like to ask myself, okay, what feels authentic? Like what feels good, what feels real, and then I'll express it with the voice too, just to get all the energy moving. And centers, I feel like I'm open to receiving more when I do that too. So
yes. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
You
love it.
Thank you so much for having me. You were such an amazing host, and
Oh,
connecting with you felt so good, and sharing some pieces of my story and seeing you tear up, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna tear up too. Yeah, so it was just so lovely. You were so beautiful, and I could feel your heart and your presence holding space. So thank you so much.
thank you. It is, yeah, it's a pleasure, seriously.
Aw.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Cry some more. You can't cry.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
Oh my God.
oh man.
Yeah.
Love. So much love.
Thank so much love. Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Mhm.
This, wow. I knew that one of the things actually about podcasting is well, I'm going to post this. They don't need to know these things.